All right, our first article comes from MSN. Kevin Warsh's tenure as Fed governor shaped by inflation concerns central banks' credibility. During his 5 years as a Fed governor, Ken Warsh routinely raised concerns about inflation and protecting central bank credibility by ensuring inflation expectations remained anchored, even as he voted throughout most of his tenure to either hold interest rates steady or lower them. Warsh, President Trump's nominee to be the next chair of the Federal Reserve, served on the Fed chair from 2006 to 2011. A review of his speeches during that time and transcripts of policy meetings paints pictures of an inflation hawk by philosophy, but a data driven practitioner. Quote, in all likelihood, he'll follow the pattern that the FOMC has shown for years, and that is let the data tell you what's the right policy. Unquote, former Atlanta Fed President Dennis Lockhart said in an interview. Quote, he understands that, unquote. An eye for inflation, even amid crisis. As a governor of the Federal Open Market Committee, Warsh joined the committee's consensus on every vote and never dissented. That included 3 rate hikes when he first came on in 2006, holding steady, and finally cutting rates with the onset of the financial crisis. The Fed held rates near zero, well past Warsh's time at the Fed board as ripples in the deep recession persisted. I mean, so yeah, he was there for the crash, 2009. This past year, confronting both a weaker job market and higher inflation, the central bank has grappled with which side of its dual mandate was farther off course. With inflation down but still elevated, a divided Fed opted to cushion much weaker payroll growth by cutting rates 3 times last fall. In March 2010, Warsh addressed this policy stance, arguing that accepting a little more inflation for lower unemployment was the primary basis for high inflation in the 1970s. Quote, by definition, an increase in an implicit inflation target would lead to an upward shift in inflation expectations, unquote, Warsh said, quote, and how would a central bank make credible its promise that a shift would only be a one-time event, unquote. A dovish turn. Most recently, Warsh has advocated for low interest rates, arguing that the Fed should, quote, discard its forecast for stagflation, quote, end quote, and proceeding that the AI will be a significant force that boosts productivity and pushes down inflation, which will allow for lower rates. Da, 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 da. The Fed, under his leadership, will most likely emphasize price stability as the supreme scale back discretionary interventions, and reduce reliance on large scale asset purchases. Uh, yeah, so basically, um, Trump's new Fed chair has been around. Well, he was around for the 2008, 2009, and 2010 crisis. Let's see. Now a lot of this article has to do with rising or lowering interest rates. And it should be noted that high or increasing interest rates are generally used to slow down the economy and lower inflation by making it more expensive to borrow money. Basically, mean that people will buy fewer homes, businesses would put off expanding, and the population tends to save their money instead of trying to get more. On the other side, lowering interest rates speeds up the economy, but it can stroke inflation. And a lot of what the interest rates when it comes to inflation, this influences aggregate demand, which is the total amount of spending in the economy. It also creates the allocative effect where interest rates are creates the quote allocative effect where I think this is what Warsh is talking about when it comes to like interest rates being near zero for a long time. The
Mm-hmm.
allocative effect, that's when interest rates are too low for too long, near the zero bound. It can create artificial booms and asset inflation. Again, if kept for too low for too long, because companies can borrow more money, banks can lend out more money without having to pay
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it back. A lot of people will be more risky with lower inflation. Well, a lot of people will be risky with lower interest rates. So they'll buy
Mhm.
stock and create an artificial boom. Not that people believe these companies will take off, but because they're holding more of a product that they think will go up. Boom. During the
Mhm.
2008 financial crisis, he voiced concerns about inflation while the central bank pursued aggressive low rate policies and quantitative easing post recession. That's a little bit of research. And we're talking about this, about interest rates, because since 2021, the federal funds rate has gone up to about 5.5% from 2020 to 2023, and then from 2023 to now, we went from near zero to 5.5%, and now we're back down to 3.75, with talks of either keeping it there for now or letting it go lower. His recent comments suggest he's open to cuts if there's a boom from AI production. So he's willing to cut interest rates, which goes against what he wants. He doesn't want lower interest rates because he's hawkish about inflation, but he's willing to do it, and if it comes from
Mhm.
an AI boom and higher productivity because of AI, which, if we believe some articles from a week ago, that may or may not be happening. At least a lot of people are
Yeah.
could be putting bets into the AI market. Whether that actually produces a real boom, not sure. But there was an article a while ago, not a while ago, a couple days ago about you brought it to me. It's the how many jobs we just laid off.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. Let
Da-da-da.
me see if I can
Let's see.
dredge that up. Do you think they would let me run like a six-leg parlay on each of the big AI companies failing
Yeah, you
on like
could.
Clash
We
or
could do
something?
that. Yeah, like me, like what's it called?
What are you doing?
An
Shorting the
option
whole
stock.
market?
Yeah, shorting.
According to Newswire, January layoffs surged to a 17-year high. U.S. employers announced 108,453 layoffs, or 435 layoffs in January, up to 205%, or up 205% from December, and the highest January total since 2009, which I would like to remind everybody listening that 2009 was the height of the financial crisis.
Yeah,
If you've
for
ever seen the
sure.
movie The Big Short, that.
Yeah. So since 2009, for sure. Now that could be a lot of things. I don't think it's AI productivity.
Well, well, hold on. There's a little bit of hope. Somebody says, according to Newswire, the odds of a recession are only 23% according to Polymarket. That's what people are betting on. So I think we're in the clear.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. We can bet on 75%. I'll take that bet.
Right?
That's a good deal. But
That's a good deal. I trust these people's insight. Oh, what's that? There's one person who just bet like $50 million on there will be a recession. That's crazy. He
that's only
comes from Israel.
25%.
What?
But so
What does he know?
it's always weird seeing those. Like, why would you bet so much on something that we don't know about?
Did you see the bet on the Super Bowl? The
Oh
guy that
no.
bet like so the Super Bowl pot was so big that you could bet like it was $22 million liquid and you wouldn't budge the odds. And someone dumped like $35 million on the Hawks winning. And
Whew.
they did it like hours before the game. And it was a totally anonymous account and then they just they won and they left. And now a different anonymous account has placed a lot of money on Trump bombing Iran tonight.
Tonight?
So we'll
Okay.
see. We'll see, boys. Now's a good time to get on that insider trading while it's all public on Polymarket. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. I didn't watch Super Bowl, but I guess the Patriots.
Me neither.
I saw an
They
article.
got they got destroyed.
I saw a
Fuck
Babylon
yeah.
Bee article that said the Patriots were surprised to find out that the Super Bowl was yesterday. So today's Monday. So
Yeah.
I don't watch Super Bowl. But back to
I
Kevin
didn't either.
Warsh.
I just hate the Patriots.
Oh yeah, we just hate the Patriots.
Yep.
We go with that. But let's see.
If you're a
Now,
Patriots fan listening, do us all a favor and die.
leave the chat.
Sorry, you can continue with more important
Oh good, oh good. So basically, not Kevin Warsh is just a chair on the Federal Reserve. I don't know if he's actually gonna make a because it's all on votes. You know what I mean? He would, if it's a possibility that he could vote one way, everyone votes another, and his hawkish views on inflation are just you know, doesn't make a dent into their persuasion or which way they vote. But again, lower inflation, sorry, not lower, lower interest rates. What's called they speed up the economy. So if they do cut interest rates, I can only imagine that means more companies, more businesses, more banks are more likely to for that upcoming IPO,
Mm-hmm.
AI IPO coming up supposedly later this year. So if he was
Yep.
going to cut it, I can imagine if I had to bet on probably market, I would probably bet like a 75% chance that they're going to cut interest
Ooh.
rates probably a little bit before the IPO for the AI stocks. Not financial advice. Do your own research. There's that. Again, and on top of that, housing. We talked about this a few days ago about the housing market, realtors not selling homes, the price of homes going up. So there's probably more reasons besides just the IPO announcements for to cut interest rates. Will it happen? Again, it's just one guy on the chair. One chair in the whole building. So it could sway either way. But it's interesting to know that even during the 2008 financial crisis, 9, and the 2010 crashes, this guy's been a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are,
Mm-hmm.
25% chance of a recession,
Yep.
according to gamblers.
According to yeah, gamblers. According to
Gamblers.
gambling addicts, we're all in for it, boys. Let's hope they're
but
not due.
but if I had to assume there was insider knowledge, I would assume they would cut interest rates. Who cares about people buying homes? More companies need more money to buy the stocks of SpaceX and OpenAI and such. Any follow up?
Um, I don't know. I tend to reserve my opinion on like Fed chairs until they've like had some time in office. And frankly,
Mm-hmm.
the deal, the deal here is like the last guy didn't do such a bad job. I think he did fine. He did most of like the science back stuff. I don't think this guy's gonna be that much different. And honestly, I maybe would be a little bit concerned that he is. I think the Fed makes like a pretty solid, from like a political perspective. I think the Fed makes a pretty solid like rock in American politics. That like it's good that like you don't have presidencies coming in and like appointing whatever sycophant um, to well, I want to run the economy super hot so it looks good and I can tank it when the next guy comes in so they think they don't want to look like me again. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's probably good to have like a pretty boring, and this is true of like most stuff with banking. You want banks to be boring. It's better for everyone, and you want the guy in charge to be the most boring like guy you can find.
Yeah, for
Like
stability
so,
reasons.
I mean, if he turns out just like the last guy, I'm perfectly content with that.
Yeah, me too.
But we'll give him some time.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. All right then. Well, so for the next article, we have the one you presented to me. This comes from CNBC, and it
Oh
is
yes.
you.
Just
You may.
speaking of gambling.
Speaking of gambling, I don't know, dude. I think I'd rather gamble than do whatever this is. I'll be honest, because at least in my mind, if I'm gambling, I've got money.
Yeah.
CNBC, you may soon be able to buy now, pay later plan. Use a buy now, pay later plan for your rent. Okay,
Is that how it
so
works already?
essentially, but we'll get into it. I if I'm being favorable towards the company doing it, if I'm being favorable, I'm not. I'm just saying if
Hmm.
I get where they're coming from. We'll read. Some renters will soon be able to pay their rent using a buy now, pay later plan through financial technology company Affirm, which offers installment-based payment plans for consumers at a wide variety of retailers. Affirm will partner with fintech company Esusu to provide renters with a quote flexible option for managing one of their largest monthly expenses unquote. A firm spokesperson said in a statement provided to CNBC Make It. Isuzu offers memberships starting at $10 a month for services to help users build credit, including reporting rent payments to credit agencies. I don't entirely hate that. I like one thing that kind of irks me about buying a house is like someone can pay like $1,600 for rent, and then you go to a bank with your down payment, and they're like, "Do you have any like proof that you can pay this $1,200 a month for the
Mm-hmm.
mortgage?" And it's like, well, I pay $1,600 a month for rent. And it's like, not good enough.
Doesn't.
So I can kind of get
True.
behind it. I can kind of get behind reporting rent to payment agencies. I don't like what they're doing here. That's a different story though. Um,
Yo, hold on. You just might have figured out like the hack. Like obviously this is a clearly predatory practice where this would be like buy now pay later for Netflix on like a crazy scale where it's like this is already something that you should have budgeted into your like monthly allowance that you should not be financing.
mm-hmm.
Um, but now that you've changed your big subscription to a longer small subscription. And the craziest thing is, like financing a subscription is nuts because financing is already a subscription. When you finance a car, you're paying a subscription service to
Mm-hmm.
own that car.
Essentially, yeah.
How on earth do you finance a subscription? Like if it's monthly, okay, this only works if it's like monthly payments and then you
Well,
stretch it out over the course of the month.
I mean,
Not if it's like
we'll get into that because it talks about that in a bit. But
yeah, I haven't.
you
I
want to keep
didn't have
going?
much time to skim over it. But
Oh,
yeah,
you good?
just one
I got
last
it.
thing. This might be one of those like really insidious things where like you can do the wealthy person version of it, and it's actually this huge boon, or you can do the poor person version of it, where you don't have the money to like leverage your way around and do some crazy stuff, where it's actually just horrible for you. Where it's like if you're a wealthy person and you're financing a car, there's actually really smart ways you can do that. That one help with your credit score, that like keep you that make your insurance payments a little bit easier, because what you're doing. Is you're going okay like either you get the car through your business or the money that you're using to pay off that car when you took out the loan um, was leveraged is a loan from the bank against your current asseture. This is how a lot of like they'll like buy houses or stuff like that where instead of directly taking out a loan like a chunk from your savings, you take out a loan and then you put your like stocks or other like uh, value gaining assets as collateral. So you collateralize things that are going to gain value. Um, and then you make payments on the loan, and the interest rate on the loan sits at and same with like the financing, it sits at a lower rate than so you pay with a credit card, and the credit card fees are lower than maybe not with a car, but like the idea is the interest rate is lower than whatever um, your collateral's growth rate is. So you actually
Yeah.
end up making money
Yeah,
off
I get
of
what you're
the
talking
thing. This is
about.
how they buy houses. How they buy like this is like your rich people sort of like 101 type of deal. I
Mm-hmm.
could totally see a situation where you could finance an apartment, like you finance the monthly payments, and you set up the pay structure because the interest rate on the financed payments is slightly lower, is lower than whatever um, return rate on the asset you've collateralized to take out the money to then pay off that thing. So now you're not having to extract money from your actual um, wealth building assets. You can do it from a loan, um, and then the cumulative payments from like the credit card loan or whatever you're using to actually pay off the thing is lower than your actual asset building thing. So this is another way that like if you're a wealthy person, this is actually a huge boon to you because now you just made apartments much cheaper. They actually pay for themselves comparatively. Um,
Mm-hmm.
versus if you're a poor person, you actually don't have the wealth gaining assets to collateralize in this instance, and it's just going to siphon you of money,
Oh yeah.
which is, partly what the system is built to do.
Absolutely, yeah, I got you. But we'll continue because you talked about the whole like how they finance it.
Hmm.
So eligible renters will be able to use a firm through Isusu to pay their rent in two equal bi-weekly payments with zero interest and zero late fees. The spokesperson said, "I don't believe that. I don't know how long how long they'll wait before they give you late fees. I don't believe it's ever zero. It might be like the first week you miss it, but we'll get back to that." The offering is
Hmm.
rolling out through a pilot program, and the companies have not yet announced a launch date. Let's see. So, so there's that, and there's something I do want. There's a couple things I do want to bring out. One, we're gonna get into the site. No, I'm still gonna switch it up. Later on, it says a payment option won't solve the quote underlying affordability issue. Some financial experts are skeptical of using buy now pay later plans to fix costs like monthly rent. Um, Using a buy now pay later plan for rent could be useful in true pinch or short term emergencies. However, relying on it consistently would be a mistake, particularly for people who will already struggle keeping up with payment rents. Um, Again, it doesn't fix the fact that prices are going up, rent's going up, housing's going up. I do think in the article it says the nationally rent in the U.S. went up about 3% in December 2025, so that's going up. What was up? Rent's going up, food's going up, cars going up, and I don't think wages are keeping up with that. That's a totally different issue. We'll get into that some other time. But for now, I think we should focus more on like the psychology of buy now pay later plans. In the
Mm-hmm.
article, something I do like. Bone Parth. I'm not sure what Bone Parth is. Previously criticized installment plans for encouraging overspending and targeting consumers quote who are most susceptible to borrowing when they shouldn't unquote. He wrote in LinkedIn 2025. Using buy now pay later plans for rent could be a quote slippery slope quote that has consumers quote falling into traps of fiscal irresponsibility quote. Um, yeah, absolutely. When you and I and
Yeah.
we talked about this years ago when they had buy now pay later plans, because it was just like 2 or 3 years ago they were talking about like buy now pay later for was it Christmas gifts?
Mm-hmm.
They were doing that a couple years ago. Like it was a big trend for people to use buy now pay later plans to get it was, their Christmas gifts, which you know I feel like the people who need the buy now pay need to go through the buy now pay later plan, and that includes here as well. If they need to use it, I hate to say it, they probably shouldn't be using it. Like if it's a one-off
Yep.
thing, fine, I get it. Times are tough sometimes, but that's not what most people are. But that use this program, it's usually people who are already living paycheck to paycheck. Something happens, they use the buy now pay later plan, or they take out payday loans, and then now it's a cycle because you're not getting as much from your next paycheck because they're taking the money out. So then now you have to do another loan,
Mm-hmm.
and usually these loans, I remember seeing it somewhere. It was like Insta something, or there's a couple apps like Dave and another one I can't remember the name of it. Start with an I. Give me 1 second. Not I. It's E. Earnin. They do the you know essentially the payday loans, and it's a cycle. And those places aren't free. Not granted. The fees are low. It's like $6 every $100 you borrow, but you do that a handful of times. Well, that $6 adds up, and now you're even further behind than you are. So you need to borrow more money to get back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the notes I've taken, when people use buy now pay later plans, they are get what that means is they are getting resources that they haven't earned yet. That's the thing. Like it's not like what's it called, like, oh, I do have the money for this. Like how you just said rich people would. They already have the money for it, but they're doing a finance program so that their credit goes up. Maybe they make some money off the thing. Whatever. Their interest rates are lower. Their payments are lower. That's why they do it. But the people who need it because they need to pay rent, as the example here, they're essentially
Mm-hmm.
getting something that they haven't earned yet. So now they're gonna have to earn and then possibly work a little extra, because I don't care what this thing says, there are gonna be fees. It may not be your first time, might not be your 10th time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it'll give you like a 2 week grace period. But there's no way they're not doing fees, because this doesn't end well. Period. And there's no way a firm's gonna be like, well, we're gonna take the risk. No way. I'm not buying it. Uh Note it took doesn't solve the underlying affordability issue we're facing in this country, or the rest of the world. The rest of the world is also hurting. I've read the reports. Um, Again, these are essentially loans for people who can't pay rent and putting them into debt. And then this increases the chances of having a what's called a debt overhang. Um, basically, like, you're always going to have this debt overhanging you, and you're more likely to start, like, making even more financial irresponsibilities because you have this debt overhang, and you get to the point where you're like, it doesn't matter now, it can't get worse, we'll just keep doing this and
Mhm.
this and this. And again, as you stated, great for rich people, a problem for poor people.
Mhm.
um and my final note, studies show that breaking a large purchase into smaller installments reduces the quote pain of paying unquote, which has a habit of leading those people to spend significantly more than what they already would have. As already stated, there's fees. There's actually, here it said earlier, there's a subscription you have to pay to use it. So not only are you, let's say you need an extra $200, a month for what's called, for your rent, and you already paycheck to paycheck. That's why you're using this program. So you're like, okay, I'll pay $10 and I get my $200, and it splits that in half.
Mhm.
Boom, you get it. Well, now you're not, you didn't get $200. Yeah, you're only what's called, now you have to pay back essentially $210, and then
Mhm.
the next month you use that. Essentially, you have 20. You do that for 10 months. There's that $200 you needed already. So now, are you
Yep.
not only do you have the 200 you need for your rent, you essentially need to find a way to have 200 extra.
Mhm.
So, like as you stated, this
Yeah.
is great for rich people, bad for poor people. And the way Boneparth stated, or let's see, it while it's for rich people, it's targeting the sorry, you said it's for rich people. It's targeting poor people because they're gonna
Yeah.
see this. They're gonna be like, I need this. This will help me. My life will improve. I'll be able to pay rent, and then it gets them trapped in a cycle. Because the rich people aren't trapped in the cycle. They're making the payments on time with the money they already had. So now it's the poor people going deeper and deeper into debt, which means they're gonna have to owe the company more and more and more and more. And it's kind of
Mhm.
predatory. Is that the word I'm thinking of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, I hate to say it because I know there's times when people need money. You break your leg, you're out of work for a month, you need the money. That's not who we're talking about. It's the people who are already living paycheck to paycheck, and maybe even struggling a little more than that. They see this like this instant relief, and
Mhm.
it's psychology. The instant relief. It's kind of like beating off. It's that instant relief, that instant gratification. But then there's repercussions that theoretically you don't have to think about. It's like, oh, I'm
Well,
covered. Oh, I'm satisfied now. I'm not going to have these problems later. But then the problem is the problems keep
yeah.
piling up. Keep talking. You go. You go.
No, I agree with your general point about instant gratification. I'm not sure I would agree that beating off is instant gratification. Let's be
I don't know, man. It's kind of
totally
instant for
clear on our
me.
terms
It's
here.
it's kind of instant for me. I consider under 20 seconds instant.
He's like a samurai, beats off to completion in a single stroke, back and forth.
Shing.
It's
Uh,
elegant in its simplicity. All right, but no, I agree. It's like, yeah, there's a reason why you see like payday loans and stuff like that, or rental furniture outside of like military bases and in poor communities, because like
yeah, yeah. I
they're
didn't think about
designed to
that.
prey on people who
Mm-hmm.
are not in phenomenal financial situations, who want amenities, um, like housing is an amenity. Um, and I mean that I was saying that ironically. I don't think housing is an amenity, obviously, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's designed to prey on those exact kind of people, and they're looking for like, maybe you want an apartment, maybe you want like a slightly nicer apartment than you have now, right? They're just trying to like, they want you to take that one little step past where you can really go, and then they basically just like, they loan shark you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just loan
Yeah.
sharking.
Yeah. Not only that, with if the recent reports we read a little bit ago are to be true, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs to AI really fast. So you've taken on this
Mm-hmm.
greater responsibility. You're deep in debt because of these payday loans, and then now you're probably about to lose your job because, well, a computer can probably
Yep.
do it better. I don't think so, but Companies believe that.
The company does,
Yeah, the company believes
right? It's
whatever is
what's it
going to
called?
give them profit.
It's the New York Times effect. There's a name for like when you're reading like an article in a newspaper where you're reading an article and you're not an expert in the field in the subject matter. You're reading it like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. And then you flip to the section that you know very well. Like let's say, you're an economist and you're reading like the politics section. Like, yeah, no, this is a really, deep insight into the politics. Wow, that makes, this person is really smart. That makes so much sense. And you're reading in the science and you're like, wow, well, this physics problem, I totally understand that. Yeah, wow, that's really interesting. It's really insightful. And then you flip to the economics section. You're like, what is this garbage? Who wrote this? Did they have monkeys on the typewriter? This is stupid. And then you flip to you flip to the humanities section. You're like, wow, this is really interesting. I didn't know it was like it's that kind of thing, but like
Yeah.
it's like the monkey's paw version of it, where it's like some computer nerd said, I think I could write a computer to do everyone else's job better than them. And the
Mm-hmm.
irony is, the only person whose job they can do better than them is the computer guys.
Yeah.
Um, but like, it's one of those things where it's like everyone thinks that AI can do everyone's job but theirs, because when they see it do everyone else's job, they're like, wow, this is really good. And then when they see it do their job, they're like, this is trash. You guys think this is acceptable? I would get fired if I made this. Are you joking? And then they
Mm-hmm.
see, let's say you're someone who does art, right? You're a graphic designer and you're seeing all this AI stuff coming. You're like, dude, I would get fired if my stuff looked half as bad as this. Like, hello, this is unacceptably bad. And then you see it, write a paragraph like summarizing some economic thing, and you're like, dude, AI can replace economists. It could run the economy. It's like, no, you just don't know what it's talking about, so you have no frame of reference, so you don't know how it's just as dumb there as it is over here. Like, it has its uses. It's a great assistant because it's very general. It has a very broad knowledge base. But because of the way it works, because it's just like a giant matrix program, like it won't be able to engage in the levels of like specificity and refinement that most people are. And if what I've seen is to be believed, a lot of AI is very rapidly approaching sort of this like intelligence event horizon, where like I say event horizon, but it's like it's sort of an impassable point. They can't get more intelligent and more efficient. Um, Even no matter how much more, like the power demand to become the next little bit smarter becomes exponential,
Mm-hmm.
and the complexity demand goes up and up and up and up. Like to get an AI that is 0.1% smarter than like whatever the current generation of Claude is, you need infrastructure that's like an order of magnitude larger than what we could possibly than like what exists now. And to get something that's 0.5% smarter than that, you need infrastructure that's 10 times the size of what we have now. Um, and when the programs are really small, it wasn't an issue because we had the infrastructure. But this is why there's so many data centers getting built. This is why there's so much investment in the industry, because like in order for it to get to a point where like to the point that people want it to be at, the infrastructure that has to exist is inordinately large. And even then, it's not going to get that much smarter. It's going to get a little bit smarter, but it's not going to get that much smarter. They make great co-pilots if you're just trying to like, putt about your day and you don't need a super in-depth thing and act like this is like your pilot surgeon or your bus driver like pilot distinction, right? A bus driver that fails to park the bus properly uh, 10% of the time is a great bus driver.
Mm-hmm.
A pilot that fails to land the plane properly 10% of the time gets fired. Like the margin for like or like yeah, like this is one of those things where it's like the precision. If you're in a field or you're doing something where precision isn't super critical, then AI is great there. Um, or it's useful. I shouldn't say great. It's very useful in those fields. Um, but if you're in a field where like it very precision and like accuracy are like paramount, you probably want a different kind of like when we say AI, generally what we mean is large language models which work off of matrix programs, like at least as far as I understand them, like these things aren't very good at doing the jobs that we need them to. There's a reason you have like specialty built. There's a reason people still have to land airplanes
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's really, 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 really hard to get a computer to do it properly without killing everyone on board. Um,
Yeah,
and I
man.
don't think
Like the amount of times I have to retype a prompt just so we can have a thumbnail for our YouTube videos, like you'd be astounded.
Exactly.
Like I get it.
Right.
I'm using AI. I don't have the art skills or the time or the talent to make the thumbnail, so I'm relying on AI. But it sometimes takes a couple tries and a couple different programs before I get like a this is decent
Yeah.
enough to use as a cover.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like it may this is the big scare in AI, which is this is it. This is 99.99% of as smart as any AI can ever possibly be. Like the difference would be like the difference in intelligence between like if you're hanging out in like a classroom of kids, it's the difference between a kid with an IQ of like 115 and a kid with an IQ of 116 being the smartest possible AI. Like the difference that you can tell is like, I mean, in some areas, I guess maybe, Brendan's smarter, but like he's not that much smarter than Tyler. And
Yeah.
if it costs us, like if you're an employer, right, and you're looking at these things and you're going, okay, ChatGPT, blah 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 blah, costs $20 million to keep running, and ChatGPT, let's call that like 1.0, even though it isn't. Like ChatGPT 1.0 costs $20 million to keep up and running annually, and ChatGPT 2.0, which is 1% better, or even 50% better, costs $200 million. I mean,
Yeah.
do I really need that 1%? Like, do I really need that? And I think the nail in the coffin here. This is my personal opinion. Apple knows this, which is why they one dragged their heels for so long, and two spent a lot of time refining and shrinking their models so they could run locally on devices because they recognize that hey, we are quickly approaching this sort of event horizon of AI intelligence, and we're already at 90+%. No one will really notice a difference. Like, sure, there might be some like invisible line that once you get past it, even if it is like this very small distinction, it actually just becomes so much better. That could happen, and that's what the industry is banking on, is that somewhere between 99 and 99.99999, there's a thin line that once you get past it, all of a sudden AI is so much better. Um, like they're hoping it works like a jet engine, and that the harder and faster you run it, the better it works, and not like a traditional engine where you probably shouldn't be running it like that.
Yeah.
And I think Apple's hedging their bets. Apple's going, hey, we developed our own little AI to work integrated with our phones, and it's 99% as good as all the AI out there. And because that's as good as AI is gonna get, like it doesn't really get that much better. Like it might get like better in little pieces, but this is what people want. This is what's going to be useful, and this is the future. And people need to stop. I think Apple is very much of the position that people need to work on integrating AI more efficiently, effectively, and like less obtrusively, um,
Yeah.
as a business model, as opposed to spend another $17 billion trying to make it 0.001% better. It's
Hmm.
like mining crypto. The people who got in early got in best, and then everyone after that is just kind of pushing for scraps.
Yeah, essentially. And like, now granted, this was back when I was in middle school. So take it like 10, like not 10, like 15 years ago. And actually no longer than that. Oh my god. Beside the point. Um,
You're so old.
I know. But I remember
Speaking of old people, TrumpRX.
we'll get to that in a second. But I really want to get this point in because I still stand by it, even if I'm not on it. I'm still by it. I remember
Mm-hmm.
this one. It was a computer class, and our teacher was like, "Do you think robots will one day take over the world?" And everyone said yes. And I was in middle school over 15 years ago. I understand that technology is advanced, and he said personally, I don't think so, because computers can only learn or spit out what we know. Like you have to program it in order to learn it. Like if you were making a calculator and you left out the digits for the number 2 and you type in 1 plus 1, what is it equal? It will crash because it doesn't know what to give you. It can, not granted, this is AI. It's farther than that. So your whole point of the whole like we're getting 1% better. I think that's because like it can only learn so much. We can give it all of the books in the world, it can read all the books in the world, but it can't tell us anything that of a book that we haven't written yet. Does that make sense? So it
Yeah.
can only go as far as we program it. It can't. Now, is it smarter than the average person? Yes. Is it smarter than everyone in the world put together? slightly less, but you know what I mean. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. We're hitting that point where it's like it may not get better or significantly better in a way that we're all going to see it, unless something happens with computer quantum or
Yeah.
whatever.
And listen, here's the deal. Not to say that the technology is useless. If we as a species somehow managed to create just like a 115 IQ guy that we can send out to do stuff for us, that's huge. Just to be clear, that's huge. A 115 IQ guy that has access to the entire breadth and depth of human knowledge that we can just call upon for most things, and he's mostly right most of the time. If like that's like a huge boon as a species. And if we can figure out a way to optimize this guy to just be easier and less like environmentally taxing and like financially taxing to keep around, this is like a that's a big like achievement. This isn't like a nothing burger AI will evaporate like VR did. But like also he
You say
is
that as I
just.
look at my
Like this is
Oculus Rift right above my desk.
right. But like
Continue.
it's one of those things where it's like this is genuinely a very impressive leap for humanity. But like this is impressive in the vein of like probably the most impressive inventions in human history are like language, fire, the Gutenberg press, and the
Mm,
internet, and like the top five, like or like the semiconductor, I guess, um,
yeah, fair,
are like
fair.
your top five inventions in human history. Language, and then written language, and then fire, and then
Language fire.
unironically probably in that order, and then the semiconductor is like your top four, five ish. You could probably throw like maybe the Gutenberg press or like the wheel up there as like your these are the biggest, most important achievements humanity has ever made. AI doesn't crack that, but that's also in the same way that like a rocket ship doesn't crack that or an airplane, where it's like
Yeah.
it's really impressive and it's a huge benefit to everyone when it's applied properly, but like it's not going to be this like shift in the mentality of how our species works the same way like the internet was.
Mm-hmm.
Which I to be clear, I stand by the idea that like the internet is like one of the largest, most important achievements in all of human history, and we have not felt the ramifications for the existence of near instantaneous, uh, global, person to person, and like mass, like person to many, like communications, and we will continue to feel it for like the next few hundred years. In the same way that like when written language came around, it totally revolutionized society, but it took it a while to get everywhere. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to see something very similar to that because of the internet, assuming it doesn't get all knocked out by a giant solar flare here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, fair,
In
fair.
which case, I don't know. Back to books, boys.
Back to books. Start buying them.
Maybe better. It's the sun saving us from a future we never wanted. I've read enough Dune.
All right. Well, again, back to old
Speaking of
stuff.
futures,
Yeah, speaking of the
oh,
future, we have we have
we went in totally
ABC
different directions,
News.
but yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, the same thing, I guess. ABC News. Trump unveils TrumpRX website. He says will help Americans buy lower price prescription drugs. President Donald Trump on Thursday unveiled his TrumpRX website in an event at the White House, listing 40 drugs at lower cost than previous list prices to patients paying out of pocket, and calling the launch part of the quote most transformative healthcare initiatives unquote. Trump made an announcement alongside Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz. Wait, is that Dr. Oz? Like from the TV show?
Yes.
Oh my god, I didn't put
Yes.
that together when I was reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And National Design Studio
Who I think
Director.
is not an actual doctor.
Really?
I'm like, oh, that or he had his license revoked.
Okay, that's fair.
So
That's fair.
it's like a title like Doctor Disrespect. It's like inclusive in the title, but it's not the actual title of doctor.
Okay,
It's
that's
like
fair.
MD or
That's fair.
PhD.
And National Design Studio Director Joe Gebbia. Quote, starting tonight, dozens of the most commonly used prescription drugs will be available at dramatic discounts for all consumers throughout a new website called TrumpRX.gov, unquote. Of course, it was named that. Trump said at the White House event. Some of the reduced cash prices were announced last year by the administration, and some of the new prices had already gone into effect. The president touted that the use of his most favored nation MFN policies, making sure that the U.S. isn't paying more than other countries. That's fair. For making the lower prices possible. Quote, for years, politicians. Okay, whatever. According to TrumpRX website, these drugs can be obtained by participating pharmacies using coupon card codes. Sorry, displayed on the website or directly through manufacturers' websites. The website also notes that, quote, TrumpRX discounted prices is only available for cash paying patients, unquote, in an FAQ section. The discounts are not available for patients trying to pay through insurance and do not go toward insurance deductibles. Only for a few dozen drugs are offered at the website through the are offered on the website through the website, though the website says that, quote, many more drugs are coming soon, end quote. Okay, so, and it goes on. But let's get something out of the way for sure. Uh, the site TrumpRX does not sell or ship the drugs. That's important to me, because before, I'm a capitalist, not laissez-faire capitalist, but a pretty hard capitalist, which means I love competition. So if there's more things competing for your dollar, for your dollar,
Freudian slip, they say.
more things competing for your dollar, theoretically, and I do believe it's proven to be true, the lower the prices, and even to an extent, the higher the quality, because companies have to fight for your dollar instead of just assuming they're going to get it. I thought, before I read the article, that's what I thought it was. I thought Trump RX was going to be like a competitor to like Big Pharma, Johnson Johnson. I had a list of other companies in mind. I can't think of them right now. I just only think of Johnson and Johnson. That's not what this is. This is not. It's not competition because it's just a website taking you to the manufacturer and producer of the drugs. So, then, like, theoretically, the manufacturer and the drug makers are getting the money directly from you instead of going through insurance companies and quote unquote big pharma, which, well, I'm a fan of. Well, again, I let me backtrack a bit. I'm a big fan of competition. I don't like when competition comes from the government. I believe government needs to stay out a bit of competition. I do believe, monopolies are bad, oligarchies are bad. I get that. But for the most part, when it comes to just, real competition, and also not competition between, like, companies across the entire United States, like Tyson and airlines, stuff like that. We can get into that a different day. But I don't like when competition comes from the government. How? That being said, according to this thing, it's not like a company. Does that make sense? They're not
Mm-hmm.
competing with Big Pharma. They're just giving the quote unquote average person direct access to the drugs that they may or may not need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, lack of competition and there's been a lack of competition in the pharmaceutical sector, which contributes to high prices. Like you see all the time, like TikToks and videos of other countries being like, "Look how cheap my drugs were," and then here comes
Mm-hmm.
the big pharma drugs where it's cost like $500 for a single shot.
Yeah.
True story. Now it should be noted that those countries, they're not cheap because the government makes them. Well, they're not cheap because the drug makers make them cheap. They're cheap because they're coming out of your taxes. Let's get that out of the way first. But so it's nice. But again, it's not for people using insurance. It's for people who
Yeah.
are, they don't have insurance. And that's where they get they can get their drugs there without having to go through an insurance company. Or the thing that really gets me that irritates me about insurance companies is that, let's say there's this drug you need. They've already proved it a bunch of times. Maybe it's a life saving drug. True story. And one day they decide, no, you don't get this drug that needs to save your life anymore. And I'm not gonna name names, but I remember someone that would happen to. They would pay like uh, $60 a month for an entire month's worth of what's it called?
Insert drug.
Insert drug. It was for diabetes.
Hmm.
Um, and
Insulin.
then one day, insulin. Yeah, I think it's insulin. Don't know why I had a brain fart, but $60 a month. It might even been $60 for every 2 months. But anyways, one day the insurance company's like, we're not paying for that anymore. Good luck. And he went to buy it, not through the insurance, because even though he's paying the insurance, they're not going to cover it. And it was like $300 to $500. I know that because I went to buy it, and they couldn't. Some people can't afford that. Some people can't just, because can't afford a two, three, $500 increase for an entire month's worth of medicine when they've only been paying $60. Quote one, you're already paying the insurance company. I understand they're a business, but that's something that, you know what I mean? Like, if it's life saving, you probably need it. You know what I mean? It's like sidecar. That's like buying a brand new car and it has a remote start, but you have to pay so you can use the feature that's already in your car a year. It was like $200 a year to have remote start in your car. True story as well. I find that kind of devious. If the thing's already in your car, you should be able to use it. Sidecar,
Hmm.
no pun intended. So now hopefully that gets addressed here. Because again, it's not selling the drug, it's just taking you to the website where you can buy it directly. Now, that being
Yeah.
said, you're not getting that drug day one.
Nope.
You're going to have to wait as well. But it's nice that there's an option in case, one, insurance says no, we're not going to cover you. And then you don't have to pay out of pocket a large sum of money just so you can live for the next month. So,
Hmm.
in my opinion, that's nice. Um, I don't.
So
Yeah, talk to me.
I was just gonna say, um, so I'm gonna give you the opinion that my sister had, because she works in pharmaceuticals, and from what I've heard both on the internet and a little bit of poking around and from her, it looks like this system is just sort of like a reskin or just like an attempt at good RX,
Good
Mark
Rex. Yep, I
Cuban's
read that as well. Yeah.
that direct thing, um, which whatever. But then additionally, from what I've heard, this is another one of those systems, um, like so you know that like ho- hospitals will add like unnecessary charges to
Mm-hmm.
your like bill, and if you dispute them, they'll basically just always let them go.
Yeah, $300 for Tylenol.
Like, hey,
Okay.
you charged me, yeah, you charged me 30. That's not what that costs. You're trying to, and they basically always let it go. Um, Same thing with like a lot. Believe it or not, this is sort of I don't know if this is like folk, um, lore or if this is like a real deal, but like a lot of hospitals are obligated to do things for free. Like if it's life-saving surgery, there's actually there's an obligation that exists, a legal. I think there's a legal obligation that exists that they have to perform the surgery,
Yes, they do.
especially if you show up in like the ER and the or something like that, and they cannot charge you for it. They will charge you for it, but you don't have to pay it. Um, it's not like you can file bankruptcy. It's not like you can like genuinely you are not obligated to pay that, but they'll make it seem like you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also like when it comes to like financial aid for like struggling people, there's actually a lot of it out there, but a lot of it's sort of like almost a cult in how to like obtain it. Like you need to know how to get it, and no one makes it clear on how to get it. And especially if you're one of the people who needs it, the likelihood is people are intentionally like businesses and whatnot are intentionally not telling you so they can sell you a solution. From what I've heard
Yeah.
from my
Mm-hmm.
sister, a lot of these companies, a lot of the drug companies, um, hike up their prices because insurance will let them. So insurance says they're engaged in this sort of like okay, here's a good comparison. Back in like 1970 through like basically from like 1940s to like the 1990s, college was really cheap. Even Ivy Leagues weren't that expensive. You go
Mm-hmm.
to like Yale, Harvard, Stanford. You go to Ivy equivalents like University of Chicago, MIT. Like you go to good schools for not that much money. Definitely more, and normal schools like state schools or like smaller local universities or like smaller private universities, those were even cheaper. And then when the government came in and said, "Hey, we'll reimburse students on tuition," the schools went, "Oh, reimburse how much?" And that's where you started to see the huge spike in college tuitions because when you have a guaranteed payer, the government,
Mm-hmm.
you base it this it's like when you're working you've heard the saying in construction, right? It's like, oh, if you're doing government work, you take as long as you possibly can
Because they're gonna pay
because the
it.
government must pay you. There is no out. They basically cannot negotiate. They must pay you. So you drag your heels and you drag your heels to try to get as much money out of that program as you can. And then once the money's dried up, you do the thing and you can move on. Um, and in a similar vein, colleges did the same thing. It's like, well, hold on. If you're going to reimburse me this much, would you? Okay, let's say it's $1,000, but let's say it's like 500. It's like $500, which is like whatever, a year, enough that you could work a summer job and pay for both semesters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to live on campus and have a house and a car and um, but you they go, okay, you'll cover the 500 for every student. Will you cover 1,000 for every 2,000, 8, 10, 15, 20, 40? And basically the government was just kind of stuck saying yes. In a similar vein, this is what drug companies, like pharmaceutical companies, do with insurance, um, where insurance is like, well, hold on, we want to make money here. And we make a lot of money by charging premiums, right?
Yeah.
You have to pay your insurance premiums. And the way they get more money out of premiums is by, well, providing you with more expensive goods. And so the drug company saw this and went, oh, they need expensive goods. Well, let's say it costs me, you know, 30 cents to make like a month's supply of insulin, and I might sell it for $1 or whatever, just as an example. Hey, this insulin costs $100, and the insurance company goes, a reason to charge people more on premiums? Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have to pay us 10 more bucks a month, or whatever your pay schedule is, because well, insulin, should you need it, it's $100 for a monthly supply. And then the drug company comes along and goes, well, actually, because of well, be, would you would you buy it at $500? And the insurance company goes, oh my gosh, we would love to buy that at $500. Turns around, hey, that's actually an extra $50 a month on your, and because you can't be uninsured, in for a lot of stuff, or if you're not insured, you have to go to the drug companies and basically like pay through the nose. That's how a lot of it worked out. However, drug companies are smart. They're not stupid. They make drugs. They will actually offer you coupons to get at the much, much lower price, which is effectively the business model that GoodRx runs on, where they expedite that process of getting that
Okay.
coupon, getting the discount applied, because the drug company knows most people are not going to go looking for that. Because it actually will end up costing you more. Because if you get it through insurance, it might cost you, the insurance like, listen, we'll give you this uh, insulin at $20. And the drug company goes, you can buy it from us direct for 30. Or you can have insurance and pay 20 or like 15 or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like it's an actual thing. Like you can go straight to the company and they will give you coupons to get it at a much discounted rate. And GoodRx in many ways functions as sort of a middleman facilitating that to happen. And so they'll tack on their thing. So through insurance, let's say it costs $15. Well, through GoodRx, it might cost, $25. And then direct from the company, they might charge you 50, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's as how I understand it. I could be wrong on some of the stuff, but I know companies offer direct coupons. And so like if TrumpRX wants to sort of like get in on this, they're going to need to one set themselves apart from um, GoodRx, which seems to actually just be the better version of whatever they're offering. Um,
Yeah. Just
from like the price
good RX
comparisons
with
that I've
Trump
seen.
slap on top of it.
Yeah, well, it's GoodRx with Trump slapped on top of it, and then you're paying an additional premium because well, we're not just gonna do good. We're not just gonna nationalize GoodRx. because that's, well, that has its own problems. We're just going to come up with our own sort of I don't even know if it's nationalized. Is it private? I have no idea actually how TrumpRX works. But I've seen the price comparisons, and TrumpRX is like $50, whereas like GoodRx might be like 35.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like this feels just sort of like they're trying to win. This feels more like they're trying to win goodwill than like a genuine attempt to like
Yeah, like
resolve things. Or more accurately, this feels like an attempt to almost maybe legislate from the executive, where, well, we can't actually pass laws that might make this better or easier, and we may not even want to, but we can get in on the market and make some cash, which is why it's like more expensive. And I think this is a pretty like low stakes thing to say, but like there's a lot of very loyal like Trump supporters who will go to do the Trump RX, and like he probably stands to make a pretty penny off of this.
yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. And not only that, again, like you brought up the whole like bring goodwill thing. Midterms are coming up, so that should be
Mm-hmm.
noted. We need some goodwill. And what was I gonna say? I was gonna bring up a point that like one, this does seem like like you said, the good RX thing kind of subserting the insurance and quote unquote big pharma. I'm gonna keep saying that. But in this book, the book I read is called The Myth of Capitalism. It says one study finds that for each dollar spent on lobbying for a tax break, firms receive returns in excess of $220. So now I don't know how this is going to affect upcoming elections. It should be noted that it probably will. Assuming that Republicans are on, Trump's side of this, like we're gonna try to push people away from, not really push people away, but like people who don't have insurance. Here's an alternative to paying monthly to getting drugs that keep you alive. I assume insurance companies, such as medical company, Medicare companies, whatever, probably not gonna be happy about that. So it'll be interesting to see where like their donations go. Does that make sense? Um, a consulting the consulting firm Strategies, whatever, found that investing in a portfolio of companies that spent the most on lobbying and influencing regulators would consistently beat the market. Not financial advice. Do your own research. But just a complete side note to think about this, like this is going to affect like companies, especially insurance companies, because you're probably like you said, probably gonna be a lot of Trump supporters that might even be like, oh, wow, here's a Trump alternative. Let's ditch our insurance company. Maybe I don't know. There might be people dumb enough to do that, or smart enough. Who knows? Depends on how much you pay for insurance and how much your medicine costs. But they might just ditch that, go to the Trump RX website, get their medicine from there, and to be fair, it might even be cheaper for them. Who knows? Everyone's different, but I have to imagine in the back of insurance companies' minds, they're like, we don't want to lobby for this. You know what I mean? We don't
Mm-hmm.
want to lobby towards a party. And again, that's assuming right-leaning politicians side with Trump and are openly vocal about this. I can't imagine they're gonna be like, we want to support people who want to take customers away from us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it should be noted during whether it's the midterms or the election in 2 years. Uh, Keep an eye out about where these insurance companies are sending their donors, because this may or may not be overturned. At least that's what I think. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything extra to note?
Um, Not off the top of my head.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. If you like what you heard, and I guess saw, I do have the articles pulled up. Like, if you don't agree with us, feel free to comment and subscribe for more. Um, yeah, thanks. Don't have an outro.